Bonjour à tous et donc aujourd'hui pour le séminaire, on a le plaisir d'accueillir et d'écouter Vincent Rouvreau, qui va nous parler des dernières nouveautés, de Goody.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. Yes, when Owen asked for presentation, I was thinking to present Goody 3.3.0 because in a sense, it's a quite important release. It's a major release because we had three developments that are really important, I think, for Goody. So the first one we are going to talk about is edge collapse. So to introduce it, so when we build the RIPs, I think you all know that, but we start with a point cloud. Then on top of it, we build a graph or one skeleton graph. And after we do by doing the expansion of this graph, we build here, for example, the RIPs of dimension 2 with triangles. And the smart ID behind the edge collapse construction is that we can, when we have the graph, we can collapse some edges while preserving the persistence. So here it's a small example where we build the graph and after we collapse some edges in red, and at the end we have the new graph. So if you follow the link, you will see the publication from Jean-Daniel Boissonnat and Siddharth Pritam about edge collapse and persistence of flag complexes. So in Goody, edge collapse is a C++ module, but with Mark we thought about exposing it to Python users. So here in the small example, you can see it's quite easy to build the RIPs from a point cloud. So we just give points and then create a simplex tree from it. And we just say by saying max dimension equal 2, we say expand it until dimension 2. And at the end, we can see that we have 129 simplices. So if we want to edge collapse this, what we have to do is instead of create simplex tree with dimension 2, we will have to create it with dimension 1 after edge collapse and after do the expansion. So this is what we have on the next slide. Here we just create the simplex tree with a max dimension equal to 1. Then we edge collapse, and after we expand it until dimension 2. So we can see that at the end we have 73 simplices instead of 129 on this small example. After I put a code a bit more complicated, but it was just to show you that when you launch collapse edges, you have a parameter that you can set, which is the number of iterations. So here we build the RIPs on 300 points on a torus. And then we build the RIPs thanks to edge collapse. And what we can see is that we can launch edge collapse several times. So for the moment, in the interface, you can just say how many times you want to launch edge collapse. But we are thinking of how we could do something maybe smarter. We don't know yet how to do that, but we have to think about it. Because here, as you can see, if you perform 0 edge collapse, you will have 45,000 simplices in the graph. If you perform it one time, you will have 7,000 and 2 times 6,000. But as you can see in the timings on the right, the total time to build the RIPS here is more interesting by doing edge collapse only one time. But in some other example, maybe launching edge collapse several times may be faster. So this is a work in progress. This is not. So now that the code from CDARF has been integrated in Goody and at Python level also, Jean-Daniel asked me if I could do some benchmark about it. It was not easy for me to find data to do benchmark on real data, and even when I was doing some benchmark on some usual data like points on a sphere or points on a square and things like that, I had some strange results. So I decided to look for some real data, and I found this publication from Gunnar Carlson about topology and data, where he's talking about natural image statistic. So to make it short, what he's proposing is to study the topology of in an image. You just perform a small square. So in the publication, he's talking about the square in dimension 3 by 3. But for my benchmark, I think this was good real data to perform some benchmark. So what I will do is benchmarking with 2 by 2 pixels. So we will be in dimension 4. The points will be the level of gray in the image. And so we will do in dimension 4, 9, and 16. And also this way to build the data is quite easy, because once you have the dimension and the number of points you want to benchmark, you just have to resize the image. So here is the image I used to perform the benchmark, but I tried other images and the result was about the same. So here it was dimension 2 by 2, and I was asking only to just imagine I was only interested in homology of dimension 1. So this was the first benchmark. You can see that here alpha complex is a faster algorithm, and you can go really far with a number of points. And also RIPSer is not that bad. And RIPS edge collapse also is it's quite okay. But after, if you're interested in homology of dimension 2, you can see then that RIPSer with about 400 points starts to take a lot of time. And here you can see all the power of edge collapse, and you can see also that alpha complex is still interesting and the faster. And if you go in dimension 3, it's even clearer. Okay, so now we did it for dimension 4. We will go in dimension 9. So as you can imagine, alpha complex is here is completely lost, because the complexity in dimension is quite high. And so you can see that if you're only interested in homology of dimension 1, RIPSer is the faster. And if you're interested in homology in dimension 2, here RIPS edge collapse is the faster one. And the same for homology of dimension 3. And we will have exactly the same result for dimension 16. You can see that RIPSer is the faster with homology 1, and edge collapse is better with homology 2 and 3. So the benchmark conclusion I had, and by talking with Mark and Fred, I think we can say the same conclusion, is that in dimension 3, 4, or even 5, alpha complex will be the faster algorithm that you can use to build persistence. It's also true that if you're only interested in homology in dimension 1, RIPSer will be the good candidate. And otherwise, edge collapse will be the best algorithm to use. So that's it for edge collapse. So I don't know if you want to do a round of questions about edge collapse, or if we can continue. I think we can continue. So another thing that has been integrated in Goody is Tomato. Tomato is something. So I put here the link for the publication. So Tomato is a persistence-based clustering. So this clustering method is based on the idea of topological zero persistence. What we can say in short is that the algorithm needs density estimation. So here I have my point cloud, and on the right image I have the density, so it will be an input of Tomato. And it also needs a neighborhood graph. So in the middle, the graph will be also an input. So Tomato, we will have a naive hill climbing algorithm to find the initial clusters, and then it will have some merging techniques to merge the cluster with each other. So here we will go with a notebook about Tomato. So this notebook has been brought to me by Bertrand Michel and has been done by one of his students, and I would like to thank him, even if I don't have the name of his student. So in Tomato, so we will go through a really simple example. So this example is a really small number of points with clearly two clusters of points. So first, what we can do is to build the density. So here I put the code on how to build it from with scikit-learn kernel density estimator. So you can see the density here with different colors and different height. So this is provided from scikit-learn, and we have an interface to Tomato to build this density. So we will just say that we will just use Tomato from Goody and just say the density type is KDE, and it will use behind the hood, it will use KDE from scikit-learn. And we have also a density that is using the distance to measure. So this part is has been integrated by Mark Bliss in Goody. We also integrated Tomato. So you can see that we have a scikit-learn-like interface where we just build a DTM density and then we fit transform our points. And after we can plot them and you can see the same the density with different color and different height. And when we want to use this density type through Tomato, we will just say in Tomato, just density type equals DTM. So this is for the two main density type in Tomato. And I think you can also use log KDE and log DTM. I will check, I'm not sure. And you can also use a manual density computation. And now let's see with neighborhood graph how to compute it. So we have two kinds of integrated neighborhood graph. The first one will be, you will say it's a radius graph, and you will give the radius of the graph. So here it will just construct small balls around the points and just connect the ones the balls that are touching. So here you will just say Tomato and graph type is radius with a given radius. Or you can also say use k nearest neighbor, and here you will give a number of k and it will build the neighborhood graph at the same time. So here you can say also Tomato graph type equal key key equal 4. So this is for the two types of graph that you can use. You can also use manual. You can build your own graph and give it to Tomato. But also here it will be more advanced use of Tomato. Okay, so like I said, it's a scikit-learn kind of interface. So here, so we asked Tomato to use a radius graph and KDE. So we will build a radius graph with a radius of 0.1. And we will say, show me what are the clusters. So here we can see that Tomato find 9 clusters here on these examples. And that you have for only, and you have strangely for 4 clusters for main clusters. For initial cluster, sorry. And these clusters, these 4 clusters, cannot be merged. So it's quite surprising, but it comes from the graph. From the graph that we asked for. So if we have a look, so here what we say is we say that we will use KDE. That is here. So we will use this density. And we will use the radius graph. So where is the graph? It's in construction. So it's here. Oh, sorry. Here I will launch it and as it random. So here we can see that we have three initial clusters. So why? This comes from our data points where we can see that we have we say so build radius graph with radius equals 0.1, and what we can see is that all the points on the first cluster are well connected, But here on the second cluster, we have 1 point that is alone. So this is why tomato can't do better than 3 clusters on this example. So we will have 1 cluster, 2 clusters, and this point alone. So this is the reason why we have the 3 initial clusters here, and why tomato cannot do better than 2. If we plot it with colors, we can also see that this point, the point that was in the cluster alone, is the one that is not in the graph. So if we want to have the nicer cluster, we just have to say r equal 0.15, and here we can see that we have 2 nice initial clusters, and if we relaunch it, we can see that now tomato is able to find 2 nice clusters, and if we plot it, we can see our 2 nice clusters. So tomato is also a work that leads to a collaboration with a society that is called Metaphora Biosystems, where they are doing some flow cytometry clustering. So in this collaboration, in Metaphora, they had some experts that were doing some clusters by hand. So the number of points, it's about 390,000 points in dimension 10. So it may be hard work to do. And you can see that with this work that has been done with Vincent Pujol at Metaphora, with playing with tomato and the parameters, you can see that the clustering found by tomato is not that bad compared to the one that has been done by the experts. So that's it for tomato. And the last important thing that has been integrated into Goody. So I won't go into details because this is not a field where I am really confident to talk about it. But we have also Atoll that has been integrated into Goody. So Atoll, it's an automatic topologically oriented learning tool, which is quite nice when you want to find some anomalies in for instance, in complicated systems. So that's it for today, and thank you for hearing. And if you have questions, do not hesitate.